Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Adam here with Indie Farm Life. So people often ask me, does pond dye work? On the surface I think you can say yes, but what exactly are they asking when they ask that question? So as you pan around, obviously the water is very blue, but when you put this dye in the water, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? Well, several things. For many people it's aesthetics. They want the water to just look nicer and be more inviting. I think it goes without saying that water that looks like this is more inviting than muddy pond water. And for the kids and the ladies out there who want to actually enjoy the pond, that's the way to go. But there's more to it than that. One of the major benefits of having pond dye is keeping down sunlight penetration, which cuts down on algae growth as well as aquatic growth along the shorelines. And I just threw about 2.5 gallons into this pond about 3 weeks ago, and we've had about 4 inches of rain since then, so it's not quite as deep blue as it was when I first put it in, but it's also not to the point where it's green and washed out yet. I typically treat this pond with 2.5 gallons about every 60 days or so, about an acre in surface area and 22 to 25 feet deep, depending upon where you're at. So as we walk along the shoreline, you can see when it gets to about 3 foot depth or so that you just really can't see anything in the bottom. Right here you can kind of get a glimpse, but it definitely does do a nice job at cutting down on light penetration. And here in a little bit we're going to take the camera into the water at several different depths and shine it up at the sun and see what we can see or can't see. So in addition to aesthetics and preventing light penetration into the shallows, what else does pond dye do? Another one that might be actually surprising is that it keeps your pond temperatures down. By adding the dye, you would think that you would draw more sunlight. However, it doesn't allow the sunlight to actually penetrate into the water, therefore it keeps the temperatures down. Now, why would you want to keep your pond temperatures down? Well, if you want to swim in the pond, obviously you would like to have warmer temperatures. But if you have a lot of aquatic life, you don't want to superheat your pond, which would then in turn not allow your water to hold as much oxygen. And as I walk this way, you're going to start hearing the aerator, and you can see it out there pumping. Our aerator is on 24/7, and actually the aerator does ultimately warm the pond up. Sounds kind of counterintuitive, because anyone who's jumped into a pond about 10 feet down, you know how cold it is. Well, when you first turn on the aerator, you do get a lot of that cold water coming to the top, but over time, as you begin turning the water every single day, you're bringing more water to the surface to allow the sun to heat it up, and then it drops back down. So effectively, you're increasing the surface area of your pond that's exposed to the sun, and the aerator does in fact heat your pond up. So the dye helps kind of tame things down a little bit in that regard. In some warm climates, some folks will even turn their aerators off in the middle of the day. But this video is not about aerators, it's about pond dye. So with that said, let's get this camera in the water and see what we can see at various depths. It's cold down there though. It's definitely colder than it was 2 weeks ago. I'm currently standing at about, I don't know, 3.5 feet of water with it. Tell you, 5 or 6 nights of 59 degrees and some rain, and that water temperature dropped quite a bit. It was 85 a couple weeks ago. So you saw that footage. We lost sunlight pretty quick. I didn't really get this thing more than 2.5 to 3 feet down in depth, and as I watched that footage back, it gets dark quick. So it's definitely doing its job. And if you've watched our videos, you know that this is a pretty gradual slope right here, and it doesn't take more than 24 inches before you can't see the bottom anymore. So it's definitely helping. But the real question is that dye making the water this clean, i.e. no algae and minimal aquatic growth? I think it contributes, but you cannot definitively say that the dye is solely responsible for the clarity of the water. The dye helps, the aeration is a big factor in this as well, plus the beneficial bacteria that I add. The combination of those 3 items are what make this water as clean as it is and keep the shoreline looking like it does. Now I do use algicide on occasion when I have a bloom, but that's few and far between. It's not part of my normal maintenance program. The maintenance program is air, beneficial bacteria, and dye. So don't throw dye in your pond and expect it to make everything perfect. Like I said, the aerator's key, as is the beneficial bacteria, but the 3 of those things together are really what make this a beautiful pond and truly enjoyable for everyone that comes out here. And I think it's worth mentioning again that this is 100% safe to swim in. It's safe for aquatic life. It's safe for irrigation. There's no harm in this. I don't turn blue when I swim in here. It will stain your clothes when you first put it in, but after 24 hours when it's dissipated and diluted into the water, it's not an issue. I've received a lot of comments over the last few years when people see this and say, it looks terrible, it looks like a biohazard, I would never swim in that, why would you do that to a pond, etc. But to each their own. I personally love the way this looks. I think it's very inviting. It just makes the feel a lot more beachy. And as you can see here, we got a massive beach. So my 2 cents is if you're on the fence about putting dye in your pond, try it. At some point it will dilute out, but just give it a go and see. They make liquid dye, which is what I use. They also make soluble packets. I've just had great luck with the liquid and I'm kind of sticking with it. So if you want your pond to look like this, start with dye, add some air, add some beneficial bacteria, and I'll link some of those products below. But in my opinion, you can't go wrong dyeing a pond, especially if your pond is meant for swimming and you want people to come out here and enjoy the waters together. If it's just a fishing pond, then yeah, maybe that's not for you. But in our case, actually, that's the case. We just love the way this looks. If you guys enjoyed this video and seeing this pond, please hit that subscribe button, come back and see me. I'm always trying to improve upon this thing and make it better year after year, and thus far, this thing has not disappointed. And it's late August, and I can already tell that we don't have a whole lot more weekends out here, so we're trying to make the best of it while we can. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.